This is The Business Experience Show.
Hi, I'm Lisa Caprelli. This is the Business Experience Show, where we interview entrepreneurs, CEOs, and thought leaders. With me today is my co-host, Ryan Hawke East, and today's dream catcher is Brian Clark from PinPoint Technologies. Brian, how did you get into the marketing mindset of helping people grow their business and where they need to go?
Well, I mean, what we do is we provide data, basically. So we provide business-to-business information, so mailing lists, telemarketing lists, email lists. Basically, we sell sort of high-end customizable lists that can be used to, for your business to generate sales,
right,
to reach out to clients. And if you really think about it, there's only so many ways really to generate leads. You can put an ad on the radio, TV, in a magazine. You have Salesforce that goes out there, or you can proactively reach out to them. And that's what the component we sort of help with them is providing them with the best contact that suits their needs.
So who's your ideal customer, and are they nationwide? How do they find you? Do you find them?
That's a good question. I mean, it's all business to business what we do. So we don't do anything with people in their homes. And the main reason is there's really not a lot of money in it. That data is very inexpensive.
Right.
And you can sort of get it anywhere. But specialized data, for example, what we really focus on is the industrial manufacturing base in the U.S. We track like 150 job titles working in those facilities. Also like life science research, engineering, public safety. We have about 50 or 60 different lists we sell, but the bulk of our names are really concentrated around the manufacturing base in the U.S., which has actually grown a lot over the last 10 years.
How did you get started?
I had a company, and my business partner Jay and I he was actually running a company, and the company went out of business for different reasons. And the only really asset we had was this list we had built. And people always asked us, "Hey, where'd you get this list? How'd you make it?" And we had made it ourselves.
Right.
So we started building more and more lists and started selling them as sort of a side type of thing. And all of a sudden, we were, becoming a multi-million-dollar business.
Well, I bring this up because I've done marketing for about 23 years now and different ways of growing your business. I know you do email marketing, which I want to talk about as well, because I see a need for people to understand that better and how to actually do it correctly to get, when you do an email campaign, it should bring you business.
Yeah.
But separate from that, like I hear people like there's lists, but it was a bad list, so it's always nice when you know someone. Obviously, I know you, so like if I know somebody that needs a list, to me, knowing that relationship is imperative versus buying this list off of internet and you don't know how to trust that company.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the biggest problem we always have as a sales organization. I'll call somebody and say, "Hey, do you want to buy a list?" And they say, "No, we don't do that." And what they're really saying is, I've done this in the past and it was disastrous. And there are a lot of really crappy lists out there. Mm-hmm. The two biggest names in the industry that sell lists are Info USA and Dun & Bradstreet. So they each maintain about 40 million businesses, and they have another, and like 100 million contacts at that, which is great. They are terrific at putting information into those lists. So, a new business comes into effect, boom, they're added in there. The problem they have is there's no mechanism to maintain or update that. If you really think about it, my company, we only sell like about 1 million names, and I have 10, 12 full-time people that call through the list every day, and it takes us a year to really verify every name. Think about if we had 100 million names.
Wow.
They don't have 1,000 people updating it, and if they did, it still wouldn't be enough to keep it up to date. They have probably 10 or 20 people that are sort of, cleaning up. So the biggest problem is 60, 70, 80% of their data generally is pretty bad. Their lists are not expensive, so can't really argue. But what happens is people go out and they say, they see this huge name, Dun & Bradstreet, and they, they're really well known for their financial tracking, their rating system, all that, which is great. But the sort of the byproduct of these lists are really not maintained and updated at all.
I used to own a mortgage and real estate company, and we would get solicited. We have these lists, they're pennies, and again, I would try that, and gosh, 90% were just bad, and so. How do you overcome that objection when you deal with a company like that?
What we do is, like I said, we don't have these gigantic lists, so we can keep them really updated. We guarantee all of our data 100%. So when someone buys a list from us, they do an email, it bounces back.
There you go.
They do a mailing, it comes back. They call them, it's not there.
Right.
We'll fix it for them or refund the money for that name. So they get 100% guarantee of accuracy.
Right.
Because even with email, I could call through 1,000 names today, and I can give you that list tomorrow. Names are going to bounce on that, and people who call won't work there anymore. The turnover is very high in business. You know, you look, the average turnover on a postal basis means somebody sort of firing or moving to a different location or just not there anymore, is like 15 to 20% annually. But on an email list, it's like 35 to 40% annually because you get married, so you change your email, your last name. The company just decides, well, we're going to have this different domain, or they merge or whatever. So the person's still there, but that email address becomes invalid at a very, very high level. So, I mean, typically even with our list, as good as they are, I just always tell people you're going to get like a 10% bounce back, right? And sometimes it'll bounce for reasons other than it's not good. That means something to do with their content or method of delivery. But we'll call them all and make sure they're good, and then we'll send them the updates as part of their purchase.
Oh, so do you have like any exceptional stories that you helped someone or like you built a business from nothing?
I mean, we have a lot of companies we've been working with for 20 years, and as our companies grow, I felt like I'm sort of a part of that process because I'm giving them the engine that to produce revenue. I'm giving them the names they need of new clients. You mentioned you did like Lisa, you did ads, you get like no type of thing. Well, I mean, usually with direct mail and especially with email advertisers about repetition.
Right.
You have
and what
to
worked
go to
for us
multiple times.
at the time was radio advertising and having the radio show. That was like huge, rate of returns. But had I met someone like you, and to me, again, in business today, relationships are everything. I mean, it's your name on the line. For me, I'm working on websites, and I don't actually do the website. I have a webmaster, and if something's not done, I'm like, no, it's my name on the line. I promised this guy would have it done. What's going on?
Well, radio advertising works great. It's people don't even know how inexpensive actually radio advertising
today
is. The issue is if you're selling a product on a national basis, if you have a safety glove, let's say, well, you're not going to advertise on the radio. Your market's not correct. There's not like an industrial radio show. It's all consumer based. So it works great for consumer stuff, but for business to business sales, that kind of stuff is really hard to be successful. You're limited to either an industry publication or, once again, direct mail, telemarketing like with the Salesforce, or email. And there's not a lot of choices.
So what
trade shows.
What advice? Because I'd love to work with you on. I just got an email right before today's show. Lisa, do you do websites? Do you do blogs? Do you do email? MailChimp, Constant Contact. I've used Constant Contact for 14 years now, designing the messages. But is that something that your company handles on how to design? Because this is something that I want to talk to you about, because so many companies here.
There's a ton of issues and things to think about when doing emails. There's the legal aspect of it. You got to follow the CAN spam laws, which really have nothing to do with. It doesn't say anything about you can't send somebody an unsolicited email, which is a common misperception. People think, oh, I can't mail because of this law. No, what the law says is just you have to be honest. Basically, if your subject line's from you, the subject line the from line's from you. The subject line says what's in the ad, so it doesn't say safety gloves, and you open it up, it's an ad for Viagra, and if you click on a link, it goes to where it's supposed to go. And if somebody says take me out, you're supposed to take them out, and you're supposed to give them an easy way to do that. And that's really all the cancel law. So once again, if you have the legal aspect taken care of, then as far as going out with emails, just a couple things: Constant Contact, MailChimp, whatever it is. I mean, all those sources, they're all terrific. However, they all have policies that specifically state you cannot use a list that has been purchased. Okay? They do not, because if you think about it, they have like their gateways to broadcast out their emails, right? And if, Lisa, you buy some bogus list of 100,000 names for $10, and you're just sending out a bazillion things, it's going to get them blacklisted for everyone. So they have to make sure they're really careful about when you put a list in that you sort of know it's a quality list. That's their biggest concern, really, is it's a quality list. I mean, the only reason they say it's your list and you've collected them is because if there's a problem, they can go back to you and say, Lisa, what happened here? They'll probably turn off your service, basically. We have a lot of clients who buy our lists, quite frankly, and load them up to MailChimp, load them up to Constant Contact, and they really don't have problems because we have a very high deliverability rate. That's not saying that it's going to be perfect, but it's not like they bought a list, this junk and put it in.
So do they then say I bought it from?
No, they lie.
Okay.
And they don't lie.
Because I have done that before, where I acquired lists, and they will say,
where do you get the list from,
Lisa?
Yeah,
and I gathered it. I put all my business
cards. It's sort of old. Oh, I'm surprised so many people didn't know me anymore. I mean,
but if you say I bought the list, done, you're done.
Yeah, you don't want to say that.
But what other way would there be to do it? I mean, I don't off the record.
To deliver your. Well, I mean, most of our clients just load them up. They don't.
Okay.
They really don't get that call because they don't have a problem.
Okay.
We have had people who have, because what happens is when you load your list up, they actually send an email to everyone saying you've been added to this list. They might click I don't know the person. If there's too many people to say I don't know who
The
Lisa
spam.
is, then they get 10 of those out of a couple hundred. They're going to say, Lisa, what's going on? These people don't know you. Why are you using this list? And also they look at the bounce rates and things like that. If 40%, 50% of your list is bouncing, they know that it's an old list. So why are you loading up an old list? The argument I'd probably use if they call me, I'd just say, it's from trade shows I've clicked for the last 10 years. I just found it and thought I'd try it out or something like that.
Right.
But, there's other service. Some services don't care. We have a couple companies we work with that don't mind us using a list because they know us. Mm-hmm. And we also have this service for a lot of our clients where we'll do like a digital broadcast on their behalf. So there's other ways to get it out.
So in building this business that you created, did you have any mentors that helped you along the way to get to where you are now?
We started this business in 1993. So I was actually pretty young. I was only a few years out of college then. So I think it was sort of school of hard knocks, just figuring out as we've gone. We've learned a lot along the way. I mean, we have over 10,000 customers, I want to say, over that time period. And, there's a lot of changes in the industries, both regulatory and things we work to keep up with.
When did you see most changes?
Probably the can spam was a big change, and really hasn't reduced spam that much because it's not really highly enforced. It's sort of silly the way it works. And in Canada now they've passed a law where it's basically it's illegal, completely illegal to send an unsolicited email.
Oh wow!
And the fines are very stiff. So, so you have to be really careful if you're mailing someone who's in Canada. You could face serious penalties. But it's really not, there hasn't been a huge amount of change. Changes like with more postal type of stuff where rates are always going up. I mean, they seem to have leveled off recently, but I can remember it was significantly cheaper to mail stuff out.
So when people look at you, you're this businessman that has worked in different industries. You're having fun. You've built a tremendous customer list. What do you say to them were the challenges and the successes of building your business?
Well, your biggest challenge is always your employees. Mm-hmm. I think for everyone, you have to get the right people in the right position, pay them well, and take care of them. And if you want, to be successful, you have to have people that can do that for you. That if you have to be able to go on vacation and leave, and have people that can do stuff. And you have to be able to let stuff go. Most entrepreneurs' biggest issues are they can't let stuff go. They got to handle everything, have their hands in every pot, be looking at every little thing that everybody's doing, and that's always the biggest shortcoming of most entrepreneurs. They need to get out there and just let people do stuff and take over, because usually they do a better job than you will, because you're doing 5,000 things, and you get someone to concentrate on this one thing, they're going to do a great job.
I used to have a partner that would not like to delegate things. And so employees,
That's it.
right?
Yeah.
And they were like, I'm like, no, it's an honor for you to give them something to do. And he'd be like, I don't want to do it. I feel bad. Like if he was ordering that, I'm like, no, they're actually bored and you're working 80 hours a week. It does not make sense.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like I can remember releasing, doing payroll and just, I got to do the payroll myself. I'm the only one that can do it. I'm the only one that can add up these hours. There's nobody else who could possibly do this. I don't even know how to do payroll anymore. I would be mortified if I had to do it. So I'd just be like, oh, where do I start?
I like to ask this question to entrepreneurs who build their own businesses. How many years would you say on average, or how many years did it take you to where you could let it go, to where you're figuring out things that you never knew you were going to do?
I think even today, sometimes there's still difficulty things you do letting somebody else. I mean, it's something that you just have to monitor with yourself. I think you have to let it go when it's ready to go. You shouldn't be, as a CEO, you should be guiding your company, inspiring your company, being the leader. You don't need to be doing manual tasks. If it needs to be done, fine. Right. But that's probably not where your time is best spent. You need to be thinking globally and not thinking it on a micro level. So that's the biggest shortcoming for most entrepreneurs. That's why most entrepreneurs don't transition well into CEOs. They sell their companies, or they get out of it, or they get bored, is because they're not good at being a president, being a CEO. They're good at starting something, generating, getting it going, getting it rolling, but maintaining it on a day-to-day basis is not fun usually for them, and it's not exciting, and like I said, they're control freaks, so it's hard for them to let it go.
I have one last question, but you want to do yours first?
I was just gonna say, what does hard work mean to you, and like, what was the work that you had to put in personally?
Oh, when we started the company, I remember getting here at 6 in the morning and leaving 6 at night every day. 5, 6 days, 7 days a week, and I don't do that anymore. I'd have to kill myself if I had to do that and work more than 34, 35 hours a week. But it's just the intensity I think you bring and the focus that you bring. You have to make it. If you don't make it happen, nobody's generally going to.
So, Brian, my last question for you is your children are listening and they want to be an entrepreneur one day, perhaps follow in your footsteps, learn from your strengths and what you've done. What words of wisdom would you impart to them?
Don't do it. Get a job with the government. Don't do anything.
No, you would not say that.
What? Oh, okay. Well, I think that you have to find – the only way you're going to be successful is to find something that really inspires you, because you're going to hit so many roadblocks. You're going to have so many problems and so many disasters and things that don't go your way that unless you have that fortitude and something that really, drives you, you're going to generally fail. I mean, because you have to have sort of a no-fail attitude. You have to just be like, this is what I'm going to do, because it's really easy to give up.
Right. Well, thank you, Brian Clark. And where can we find more information about you and your company?
Well, you can find more information on PinPoint Technologies at our website, pinpoint-tech.com. So PINPOINT-TECH.com.
Thank you, Brian Clark. This ends another edition of The Business Experience Show with guest Brian Clark. I'm Lisa Caprelli. Follow me on Instagram at Lisa Caprelli. My co-host is Ryan Hawke East.